Hello. So, in this episode, I thought I would talk a little bit about how I see AI impacting the entertainment industry. Um, and I think people are definitely talking about it, but I don't know that we're actually thinking about just how massive, or we haven't wrapped our brain around the fact of how massive this change is going to be. And I'm going to be quite frank. I think that AI and the technologies that are associated with it are going to devastate, and I don't use that word lightly, devastate the entertainment industry. Um, and there's one real, kind of obvious reason for that, and that is that the entertainment industry doesn't exist to, advance human culture or support the arts or anything like that. The main reason that the entertainment industry is around is to make money. And the savings, the monetary savings that these big studios like Disney and Paramount and all those can get from utilizing AI technologies are so great that I think the pressures to actually adopt them uh, are going to be so overwhelming that at some point, if they want to remain financially viable, they're going to have to do it. So let's think about this. Um, what would happen? So if you're going to make a standard movie, like a big budget Disney movie or Paramount movie or whatever, Hollywood movie, um, there are a lot of costs associated with that. You've got to have actors, obviously. You've got to have insurance for said actors. You've got to pay money to physically go to a set, depending on where you're going to go. You have to pay cameramen, camera women. There's a whole range of staff that you need to pay and also have insurance and things like that, as well as the equipment and all that, and writers, all that. So if you're going to make a big budget movie, there's substantial expense involved in that up front before you even distribute it to, say Netflix or public movie theaters or anything like that. Uh, And that also goes, with music, although to a lesser degree. You've still got to have the musicians, you've got to have tour dates, marketing, all that. There's a significant expense if you're one of these big, massive entertainment corporations to putting out a movie. Um, and there's no guarantee that you're actually going to make money on it, that people are going to go see it. And I'm going to be maybe a little controversial here, and I would say that most of these big budget movies are, you know, mediocre. Some of them suck, but most of them, just by the law of averages, are mediocre. I mean, dear God, most of the later Star Wars movies, for example, I mean, they're following a script that seems like it's generated already by a computer. They've got great special effects and all these sorts of things. But let's face it, these aren't movies that you're going to see and say like, "Oh, my life was changed by it." It's not to say that there aren't, big budget movies that aren't great. Saving Private Ryan, for example. I don't know. Rogue One, for example, if I'm going to use a site, some of these movies do actually come out and they do step ahead of the pack. But again, most of them aren't going to be things that are going to change our life. And the reason that that's important is because AI is actually, you know, um, probably not ever going to really be able to generate something that'll be life changing, but they can definitely make mediocre movies, with the AI scripting and effects. So since I'm talking about that, let's think about the monetary savings that if a big studio wanted to go entirely AI. And I do want to emphasize, I don't think the technology's there yet, but it's improving so quickly. I can definitely see it getting there within, gosh, maybe a couple years tops, I would imagine, maybe 5 years tops. I think you could probably have the technology there to make an entire AI movie that doesn't have things like, six-fingered hands showing up or all those other things that were early AI technologies created. But let's think about the savings that you would have if you were a big budget studio that was going to make an entirely AI generated movie. First, you don't have to have any actors. You don't have to have any humans except for probably a core group of programmers and, most important, editors, to go through this thing and to fix any sort of quirks that pop up with this AI generated movie. Really, the only physical uh, equipment that you need to have, obviously high-end computers and processing power, and a place to put them. And if everybody's working remotely, you don't even have to have an office for them. Uh, you don't really have to have insurance or anything like that. Really, all you need is just a core group of humans to edit and program it, and then high-end computers. You can put it together, you can edit it, send it to your streaming service or whatever, and most importantly, you can get it done a lot more quickly if you don't have to deal with large groups of humans and their scheduling and personal issues and all that kind of stuff. You don't have to rely on actors or anybody else like that. You can churn these things out um, fairly quickly. Um, if you're not worried about creating high quality stuff, you can create mediocre movies uh, fairly quickly using this technology. Maybe even great ones. Who knows? And chances are that you're going to at least make a profit on them because, again, the costs are so low that you don't need to have a lot of people watching them to actually make your money back. Um, Same thing with music. If you're working on like a jingle for an advertisement, you could churn that sucker out fairly quickly. The massive savings here are so huge. The savings here are so massive, so huge that I really don't think that the corporate overlords, the people in the boardrooms, are going to see any reason not to do that. So why? What's going to hold it back? Well, quite frankly, I don't think we humans as a culture are quite there yet. Although I do think this will erode as we get more and more used to AI generated content. Right now, there's kind of I think rightfully so, a backlash against this. Um, but again, as we start getting more and more comfortable with it, I think that backlash is going to lessen and lessen until, quite frankly, it's not going to be a factor. And as soon as the major entertainment industry corporations think that they can get away with it, I can almost guarantee you that that's what they're going to do. They're going to start using these AI generated, videos and movies and music and all this stuff, art, whatever you want to say, and they'll start churning it out for our entertainment. Um, and I don't think that that's not only going, I think that that's not only going to utterly destroy, the entertainment industry as it is right now, the framework and the system that we have set. I also think that it is going to utterly destroy, I think there's a very good chance it's going to actually utterly destroy the corporations that are utilizing. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, first off, people say AI is going to destroy us. I mean, if AI wipes it out, obviously it's also going to destroy the entertainment industry. That's a no-brainer. But I think it's important to note that all of this technology, all this AI technology is also available to a lesser degree to us humans. All of us little peons out there. Now, granted, um, we're not going to have as fancy computers and and all the bells and whistles that these major corporations have. But I think that we have something that is arguably more important, something that these major entertainment corporations don't have, and that's creativity. I think that as human individual artists and humans out there, we can be creative in our own lives, some of us at least, musicians, artists, writers, all that. And corporations really, because they're, essentially designed to generate money, they don't tend to lend themselves to being a creative environment, most of them. Again, the people that are running these things are primarily interested in making money. They're not really there to, you know, they can't, in their mind, they can't, nourish this creative, a creative person unless that person is actually generating money for them fairly quickly. So that's kind of why they're not really good at, I think, at nurturing creative talent. Um, they're good at exploiting it, don't get me wrong, but they're not really good at nurturing. So what does this mean for why am I saying that them adopting AI is going to destroy it? It's because this technology is also available to us as individuals. We can go out and create AI generated movies. And what would be different from the ones that creatives create, from the ones that the corporations are putting out, is that they will actually, some of them, be amazingly good, amazingly new, something that actually has that human touch to it that resonates with people. So we could do that. And you can actually just put it out on YouTube, for example, and people would actually be able to access it and enjoy it. And then, standard YouTube thing, people watch it, they find it, they watch it, they like it, they subscribe to the channel, all that stuff. And then you can actually fairly quickly build up something where you can make, say, a movie that is head and shoulders better than anything that a entertainment corporation could come up with because it's creative and new. Um, Kind of the bottleneck, of course, would be to distributing it. So, YouTube, for example, is a giant corporation. You could do maybe owned by a giant corporation, which could maybe be a bottleneck. Um, Getting it on a streaming service like Netflix. I mean, honestly, I think Netflix would say, for example, make its money back if it made this, easier for people to distribute their content to it. Um, And it's not going to say that everything's great, but I mean, you'll get plenty of things that are horrible out there, but you will also get things that are really good. And I think if you're creative and very talented and put the work in, you might actually be able to make a fairly solid living by creating AI generated movies for your fellow human beings. I think the key is I think in the story part, the writing part of it, I think that's actually going to become a lot more important. Or the people that are writing actually generating the ideas for the movies and writing and editing the scripts that go out. So I think there's going to be a big change where probably the writers, might start becoming a lot more important than, say, the actors, because you can always AI generate somebody that'll be, okay. But it's going to be a little difficult, I think, for at least the foreseeable future to actually have a good, solid script writer. Um, or, maybe even have the AI generate the baseline script, but then you have to have somebody that's got some sort of creative chops to go through there and make sure it makes sense. Which, to be blunt, a lot of big budget movies now don't seem to have any. It seems to be that they're editing it from the boardroom, which is why you get such, some fairly ridiculous things that pop out there occasionally, ridiculous stories. So um, I do want to say again, just to kind of warn people, or maybe at least tell you, just think about this. Maybe I'm not right, but at least think about this. Just how devastating the rise of this AI technology is going to be for the entertainment industry. But then also think that maybe this AI technology is actually going to be really great for the creatives out there because it will give us or you the tools that you need to actually kind of bypass all those traditional bottlenecks that we had about producing music and scripts and writing and all that and art and all that writing. Okay, because if you have the tools, you can create your own movie, for example, and kind of do what you want, make it match your vision. And I suspect that, again, not all, but I suspect a lot of these sort of created movies are going to be head and shoulders better than any of the crap that an entertainment corporation can come up with. And at some point, I think that might hurt their if they don't. I'm sure that they'll start trying to appropriate this. In fact, now that I think about it, I think that that's probably what they'll end up doing. They won't go away. What they'll do is they'll end up, appropriating all these creative movies and buying it from people and then distributing it and selling it. But if they don't, I can see them being utterly destroyed financially by this kind of democratic, creative industry that will arise. Okay, so something to think about. It's something I've been thinking about a lot lately, and unfortunately, if you're an actor, I think again, maybe theater will come back and be huge, but I think definitely, if you want to be like a screen actor or TV or something, take a minute to think about how the AI is going to change that job opportunity, and maybe how you can use your own kind of individual chops to still make a living, which some people do, influencers or whatever. But in general, I don't think that the TV and movie actors are going to be um, have much of a future, unfortunately. Or maybe they do in like I said, in-person theater, which you really can't do with robots or AI. In fact, as the picture that I used for this episode is, it may be that in 10 years we'll have an entire robotic AI generated Oscars. And maybe that's good, maybe that's bad, but it will definitely be different. So anyway, think about what I've said here, and I hope you have a good day and have enjoyed this content or found it interesting.